And we are live.
Why the fuck is Zack comforting Era's dead body in the new trailer for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Why
Thanks,
the
Manuel.
fuck
You
is
said you weren't going to bring it up.
I'm like in the middle of the trailer, okay? I can't believe that you spoiled that for me.
I'm so fucking upset. I'm so okay. I don't care that Zack's gonna comfort her because she's dying or whatever. It's the fact that they're gonna do more of this fucking multiverse bullshit. This fucking Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, whatever the fuck bullshit going on here. Somebody needs to stop Tetsuya Nomura. Hey guys, this is Ultra Podcast Z, episode 227, 28. I don't even know. We should just have a segment where it's like I think Tetsuya Nomura used to have a segment like on one of those streams that Square Enix would do, like Nomura Talks or whatever. We should do one like Nomura Sucks. just rant about it. Like for today's topic, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep or it's I actually don't remember much about Birth by Sleep. Does anybody? It was for the PSP.
I haven't played it yet. It's on my list. I need to get through Kingdom Hearts 2 first.
I remember my then girlfriend. I bought it. I used to buy all the Kingdom Hearts games for her because she loved the series and she always wanted to play them all. She was obsessed with beating them all on the hardest difficulties because that unlocked like a bunch of the scenes, whatever the fuck. So
yeah.
She would get so frustrated though. She would play it and then like get stuck. My ingrained memory about Birth by Sleep was she got stuck on Captain Hook for days. and it was my PSP she was using, by the way. And so many times I swear to God, I'm like, she's gonna break my PSP because she would get mad and she would like slam her hand down. She's one of those gamers. Where I'm like, one of these days, like if we had more money, she'd be breaking controllers all over the place.
Okay, Manuel.
Oh, I didn't intro anything. Hey, I'm
Yes, you
Manuel,
didn't
leader of AJ Connections. Josh, say hi. Get the show going. God damn it,
Yes, I
Tetsuya
am.
Nomura.
I'm Josh, Otaku. I do the streaming, the photography, and cosplay.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Like we watched the trailer for. Oh, I watched. Okay, I blame Kaylee. So, friend of the channel, Kaylee Mills, tweeted the new trailer for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because it got a new demo like hours ago, literally. Like I actually got the email when the demo came out, and everything like that, because we get Square Enix's pressers, and I was like, why is Kaylee talking about this? And I mean, sure, she could like the game, but I thought otherwise. And sure enough, the reason she shared it because Cisne is in the game now, and Cisne is from Crisis Core and before Crisis. And yeah,
The demo's
Anyway.
available today.
Yes. And speaking of fantasy, Manuel, what are we actually doing today?
We're talking about fantasy anime, and what better way to talk about fantasy anime? Did you know there's a Final Fantasy VII anime? I forget what the fuck it's called, but it was a 30-minute or 20 some odd minute OVA.
It was for before. It was before Crisis, I think is what they called it.
Yeah, I think it was called that too. It was meant to. It was one of the many things they did for that compilation of Final Fantasy VII when they decided to milk it for everything it was worth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was actually a pretty well, like at the time, it was a pretty well done like anime, or like an OVA. It was pretty cool to like see the particular moment just like not look like a polygonal mess.
Honestly, I loved Advent Children. Like I remember, like no one. Okay, I know that like people are probably gonna remember this differently, but I remember a lot of people not liking Advent Children when it came out. I loved it, and I'm talking about the OG Advent Children too. I don't know if anyone's ever watched that version. They made a new.
Yeah, no, I saw the OG version before I saw the Blu-ray special edition uncensored version.
I love the original, and I remember like the part where like Tifa fights. I can't remember that guy's name, the guy with the short hair, and they start playing the piano version of the battle theme. And then when yeah, it is Kadash, where Kadash turns into Sephiroth at the end, and like it makes no fucking sense. Like really, when you really stop and think about it, it kind of doesn't make any sense. But that was great.
It was just another Geostigma clone. Okay, I mean not Geostigmata. Like it's just another like clone that they were working on. I'm pretty sure, and it just so happened that it was probably developed to turn into Sephiroth, and then like after Shinra was like sunset, I don't know. I guess Genova in parasite form decided to finish the job somehow.
Yeah, and I remember, yeah, Wes is right. Like, I remember the hardcore fans really hating it when it came out. Also, people were upset that like Cloud was a lot more emo now. Like, he was officially emo. Like, he had gone full squall basically. Um, he was emo,
Wait,
and what I found even more amazing is that when they did that reversion, like the Blu-ray one, they added in Gerard Way. He did the ending song instead. So it's like doubling down on the emo. But what I found interesting is that I remember like reading a short story that was going along with Final Fantasy VII. I think during the earlier on in the compilation, and they referenced that Zack's spirit is that black dog that
Mhm.
you always see in the game. And if you play the game, that dog is there, but you don't really think about the dog. Why is there always a dog saving Cloud? And it turns out that's Zack. And in the movie, they finally show that black dog. That's my only thing.
Uh,
And I think Cloud
uh,
has a dog on his thing now
mm,
too. But anyway,
mm, 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 mm,
what's
mm.
JD doing?
Uh, kind of humming Black Dog by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, shut up. But yeah, Cloud is doing Zack.
Na-na-na-na-na-na,
Okay, don't need enough
na-na-na-na-na-na.
for us to get claimed.
Wait, it might have been
Oh,
on the way now. But yeah,
okay.
Cloud
I need to
smiles
point
at the end
something
of it.
out really quick while we're on this before you continue with the animation right there. I just need to delete a game off of my PlayStation so I could download this 50 gigabyte mother effing like demo. Are you kidding me?
He looked it up. Yeah. No, apparently the whole game is going to be 150 gigs too, which is
It's about
ridiculous.
it's like 20 gigs bigger than well no, actually PlayStation 4 it's around 80 gigs. I don't know how where it is as a PlayStation 5 title.
That's insane. I can't even imagine a game taking up that much. But then again, like I'm gonna piss off a lot of like visual files, whatever the word for that is. Um, I do not understand the 4K thing in general. This is an argument for another day, but a lot of humans cannot properly see in true 4K, and most humans cannot see above 4K, and most humans cannot see anything above like I forget how many frames a second. So all this frame rate upscaling bullshit is literally makes no sense. You're just fooling yourselves. You guys aren't a mutant. You guys aren't fucking an X-Man. You guys can't see all this shit. We are near the terabyte region of game. Yeah, we need bigger hard drives for consoles. That's my hot take.
Mhm.
That's what we need. JD, make it happen.
I don't work in console
This
manufacturing,
demo
man.
is
Well, I don't
taking
work at
its
all right
time to
now.
download.
Fix it. Go get a job with Sony. Like get into get into
Okay,
the
man, no, but
Hollywood
that's going to take me
division.
at least 4 more years of schooling to get into computer engineering. Then I'm going to have to get a job in starting off as like a junior. Then it's going to take me like another 20 years to get to the top of that. So I might be
Hey,
dead before I can make any change.
I have a friend who's working for the Pokemon company right now, and he's barely like what 34, maybe.
Yeah, CJD, get on it.
Okay,
I
go back
actually have
to
a friend.
fantasy anime of some sort.
Okay, let's go back to fantasy.
How
anime.
dare you assume that level resolution I can see? If somebody wants to see an 8K already, let them see an 8K.
Humans can't see at 8K. You're just fooling yourselves.
Manuel, you know there's probably going to be a big editor's note over this one as I fact check all that.
There is not. I've mad fact checked this many a times. Most humans see in like okay, resolutions are a weird thing. Obviously, there's an argument to be made about something that size where it can be blown up or stretched, but most humans cannot tell the difference beyond something between 2 and 4K. And those who can see above that cannot see to 8K. Obviously, there's going to be some exceptions to the rule, so I'm not going to say nobody can. But you're a freak if you can. You are a freak, and unless you somehow breed those select genes into the rest of the human race, there's probably 4 of you. So stop it. And I guess Christopher Nolan's one of them because he's one of the fuckers who's like, I remastered my new film in 64K. Nothing can even. I don't think that was him, but somebody did that. Where like they don't even have equipment to play it yet. And I'm like, how do you know if it actually is playable then? For all you know, that file corrupted. And it's unplayable now. Anyway.
Okay, so fantasy anime manual. I keep trying to get us back on topic here.
Yeah, well, you know what the big fantasy is? Being able to see above 4.
That was good. That was actually good. I
That
like
was
how
a
you brought
good.
it back there.
There you go. Anyways, how about the fantasy anime? It's February. JDO was talking about fanime. I always had that
Fantasy?
big argument. Or fantasy in general.
You said
We actually won't
fanime.
talk about. I said fantasy anime. I said it really
No, you said
fast.
fanime.
It's February. JDO was talking about fanime. Shut up. Anyway.
You're saying fanime is not a fan event, a fan event for anime fans. It is just short for fantasy anime.
That's exactly what it is.
You
I
know
let the
what?
secret out
If
the
you're
bag.
able to still go to a con and just see a concert for free from a Japanese guest, I guess that is kind of just a fantasy at this point, right?
No, yeah, you know what also was a fantasy, and I talked about this before we went live last week. Remember the days when you could go up to a guest and get their autograph and not have to
Manual.
give them $40?
Yeah, no, it's because they all. I'm pretty sure they all buckled down along with the people that were doing Avox. Rest in peace, Avox. At least I have not heard any updates. I don't think it's happening. I really feel like most of those guests
Oh,
anyway are just going to like the Anime Pasadena, Anime
I
Palmdale,
forgot
Anime
about Avon.
Riverside.
No,
Because
no.
there's so many, like even at Anime Impulse, there were so many like voice
You know what?
actors.
You know what upset me though? Actually, it's
What?
funny because what came first, the charging for the autographs or Avox? Because
No, Avox came first.
because
Avox was
Avox,
supposed to be in 2020. Okay,
yeah,
but
that's the one that was a solution because apparently the voice actors were upset that AX was charging them money to be there. And at the
Mhm.
time, I didn't know that they were charging for their audit or charging for anything. So I'm like, yeah, that is fucked up. But if they're charging like $40 an autograph, then yes, AX should charge you to be there. I don't know if that's a hot take to have, but any other event charges you. It's not even just AX. If you went to a horror convention, you think those, well, if you're really huge, they're gonna pay you to be there. But most of those
Mhm.
smaller time signing people, they pay to be there. They bought that table, and they're making the money back by selling their shit. And if a con's charging, if you're charging fans, then the con has a right to charge you. I don't know what that big uproar was ever about. Now that I didn't know that at the time. Foolish Manuel thought that voice actors were
I
still
don't-
giving away free
it's because
autographs.
I mean, it's just because you know how the what's it called? The gaming voice contracts are trash. It really just became a situation where it felt like, hey, we're essentially guests, but sometimes we don't even have the same pool. And I'm gonna be honest, some people that are video game voice actors, not all of them are gonna have the exact same pool unless they have
Yeah,
like that big like unless they're getting big roles like Damon Mills and shit like that. Most people aren't even gonna know. Like freaking um Game Realms will have events where they just have whatever voice actors like in the area, and they'll just call them up, being like, "Hey, why don't you come down? We have a game coming out that you're in. You can like, get an autograph and stuff." I mean, like, good on them though, because I heard with how they actually have the guests come down, it is a net positive for them. They'll even actually pay some of the voice actors that if they don't make past a certain threshold, they'll just pay them for being there. So it's
but
like that's pretty
it's
decent.
funny.
You get me?
It's funny you say that though. Sorry, JD, but I'll wrap this up soon. I promise.
Please, Manuel.
It's funny you say that though, because you know what that sounds an awful like what you just described. It sounds an
Yeah.
awful lot like tipping, where rather than pay the voice actors more on the back end, we
Yeah. It
do
becomes that.
nothing, and then we make the other customers pay the offset. Now you might be all like, "Well, pay them more," but I think we've let the tiger out the cage or whatever whatever the phrase is. Because yeah, pay them more. But do you think they're gonna stop charging for autographs? No, they're gonna just make double the money. Just like how
Well,
you can
I
never
mean,
stop tipping people because they can make more tipping.
no, but the other part, and I'm seeing what Katsuru is putting there because it is different around the entire world. I mean, I even have a friend of mine who even went to their Facebook to just say that the tipping culture is so terrible because right now they're like in Singapore right now, okay? But like, you know, and it's agreeable. Like I agree that you should just pay people what they're worth. The only problem is that when the deals and the contracts that you have for your games aren't necessarily like the best, and then when you had a situation where like Anime Expo is like huge, but like how are you going to compare when the Japanese guests like they're just free autographs? But that's because the system's just very much different over there, especially with Comic Cat. And then granted, you have to wait hours. But yeah, like Comic Cat, there's like so many people there to get their stuff signed.
Yes,
It's like a different culture.
Asi just brought up the best point that I've been making before. How Japanese artists usually usually they don't they don't charge for autographs because it's such a US thing. Sorry, should I say US? It's such a Western thing. It really is. And I never thought. And when I started this whole argument, it wasn't until Josh started saying that I'm like, it does feel a lot like tipping. We've basically just invented a new form of tipping, and it's like, stop. And
But there is
honestly,
one more
can't
Okay,
thing.
can we please get back on fantasy anime?
We'll get,
stop charging
we'll
for
get to it.
autographs.
It's just the biggest fantasy being that we can at least have a good system in the US that doesn't become predatory.
Pay
But like
exactly. Pay
the
everyone what they're
other
worth, and we don't
thing,
have shit like this.
but here's where it got there's one more spot where it's predatory, okay? And this is the part that was pissing off the why even have a topic? The part that was pissing off the voice actors. And it wasn't the voice actors at first that this was pissing off. This was pissing off a different group of people that were doing their shit for free, and they were comic book artists. What people were doing was they were taking cheap ass comics at the comic cons that you can find. They would see who the guest was. They'd have a line of people that would go up to get signatures, and these people would not ask for money. They would just, get autographs onto books that they wanted, only for later these same people to take all of these books. Sometimes you can have an entire run, and then you just sell them online. So a lot of people were getting really pissed off about the flipping that was going on. Same thing was happening with the anime voice actors. I don't want to say all of them though. I'm gonna say it was more likely that you'd be seeing something like this from like maybe your Troy Baker or your Steve Blum or something along those lines. But regardless, there were some people that were starting to flip for some shit where they were making also more money than what somebody was doing at the tables. But here's the thing: the boomers screaming. It wasn't really about the boomers that were like screaming, because there was this whole like, because of how fuck things are. You either have a tipping culture or you literally have the comic book, like the old ass comic book artists. What they were doing was they were setting up a whole foundation so that it was charity. They were asking people like, could you donate to this so we can make this whole thing that makes sure that future comic book artists and writers don't get fucked, because that was the only other thing that they had. So it does suck. And I will go back to that one video that I told you about with the lines. I'm pretty sure the fact that the pandemic happened allowed them to then be like, okay, why don't we just set this thing up so everyone's charging the exact same for all their autographs, the exact same for all their pops and all that.
I think the pandemic did something weird, that we forgot what things were like before the pandemic to some degree. Because like I mean, obviously this was some degree of this was happening before, because Avox was before the pandemic, but but it wasn't like this. And somewhere during the break, this all became normalized. Or I call it the break during the lockdown. Somewhere during the lockdown, this all became normalized, and now we have the same shit that we get at the horror, the comic. I remember back in the day, funny about the comic cons. I remember walking up to like Kevin Eastman and whatever, like just getting a chill little autograph or whatever, and
Please,
like moving on.
For the love of God, wrap it up.
Kevin Eastman did Ninja Turtles. That's fantasy.
I'd argue it's more science fiction, but at that point, it's blurring the lines anyway.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, actually, JD, because I remember back in the day, I used to work at a bookstore, and I mentioned this sometimes in passing. I used to work at a Crown Books, which was a discount bookstore.
Okay, Manu, we've got 2 minutes for this story. Go.
It's actually really short. And I used to get really upset because we didn't have a sci-fi or a fantasy section. We had a section called sci-fi fantasy. And I'm like, that is such a wide thing. And I get it. There's a lot of fantasy that do that bullshit that like, our past that was actually technologically more advanced. Like that's a very American fantasy trope. But yeah, I just sci-fi and fantasy are very different. But then again, you get shit like Star Wars, where Star Wars is sci-fi, but it took place in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
But you also have space wizards, Manuel.
I mean, it is space wizards too.
Also, wasn't that description that you said for blurring the line between sci-fi and anime also basically just the backstory for the Lord of the Rings for like the first age?
Was it? Oh, the highly not really, because they didn't have technology. But what I was trying to say,
they were highly advanced magical.
If you ever played any early computer RPG, and actually even later ones like Might and Magic, all the big three, Might and Magic, Wizardry, and Ultima, all three of them are technically like, oh, you're in a fantasy world, but it turns out you go to space and we have rocket ships and like time machines and whatever.
I think Ultima retconned that one into just being like a mass hallucination.
They did, but like Might and Magic, you always like it always turns out like you're like a colony or whatever the fuck. That's like the plot of all of them.
Okay,
basically.
Manuel. Now can we? Okay, we're getting there. Can we get it onto anime now?
Yeah, did you know that Ultima and Wizardry specifically influenced just about everything fantasy in Japan?
Yes.
It's not even a joke. It really did. And D&D, I think, was the final like trifecta of that.
Mhm.
And I'll still stand by this. I'll still stand by this. JD's gonna like come up with 10 anime that prove me wrong. But the only true high fantasy anime that exists, period, that's not a mix of other genres like humor, not humor, comedy, is Record or Lodoss War.
How dare fantasy have some amount of levity in it?
That is literally the only serious high fantasy anime that exists, period. So that's my hot take. Talk about, and I've already talked enough about Record or Lodoss War, like in other podcasts. I talked about Deedlit. I'm trying to like. I talked about when Deedlit had a random like boob reveal at the end of the show, and that stuck with me forever. Not that I cared truly about Deedlit's random boob, but the fact that like, why did they have to put that in there? Anyway, what's your favorite fantasy anime, Josh? Let's talk about it. Let's get into this. Let's get into the topic because JD doesn't want us to rant about Tetsuya Nomura or voice actors for an hour.
Yes. Save that for another episode, Manuel.
By the way, the demo's like 15 minutes till it's completed. But
Downloading it
what's it called? Mashle and Magic and Muscles.
What's that one about? I saw you talk about that one, and I looked it up, and I'm confused.
So my girlfriend got me into this because I think she heard about it through a friend that she made over at ALA. Or like I'm pretty sure she heard from somebody else, or I think it's also because the intro for season 2 was trending currently at the moment. I kind of feel like wanting to do a video with that also. But yeah, so I got into it through my girlfriend. It is Harry Potter. It's
Yeah, it
Harry,
looks like Harry Potter.
yeah. Um, and like when you watch it, there's a lot of shit in there that's like just gonna remind you of it. Like we have whole ass Little Witch Academia, okay? We have a whole ass other anime that we like. To be fair, when I saw that, I also made a Hogwarts reference, but that was just because of what the castle looked like. But that was about it, okay? I didn't make any other reference to Harry Potter from there. It's its own thing, okay? But this anime literally feels like they took a lot of shit from Harry Potter and then they just gave it the anime coding over it. And it is equal parts hilarious. It is also like it knows how to get the drama on as well. Like it's the Muscle Wizard anime.
Yeah.
The girl Lemon Irvine, I'm looking her up. She looks, and I can't put my finger on who the people I'm talking about specifically, but she looks like an amalgamation of like 5 other popular anime girls just like thrown in a blender.
I
And
mean, like Lucy from Fairy Tale.
no, like she has so many little characteristics about her where she just looks like somebody researched how to make a popular like female anime character and just threw them all in there. Like they'll like, and
I
it's
think
kind of
that might
working
be
'cause
part. I think that might be part of the joke because the character really likes the main protagonist to the point where they're already like, despite not even being in an official relationship together, she's already got wedding plans and everything like set up with him. So but it's not like a yandere thing. It's very much just like I think the example of like every single anime girl and then just like cranked to like right before yandere.
I'm on the Mashle wiki, which is the thing, by the way. And I love in personality, it says Lemon is a little kooky, but she's honest to goodness person. And grammatical error aside, what the fuck is that sentence?
Honest to goodness person.
And who says
Yeah, she actually
kooky
doesn't show up.
unless you're the Addams family?
She doesn't really show up a lot during the anime. At least during the first season, she's more of like a plot device for very specific moments. It tends to follow a lot more of the guy friends. At least they tend to get a little bit more screen time. Um, But yeah, no, it is hilarious. And the premise is just simply that the little mark that's on Mashle that you see there that kind of looks like the lightning bolt that Harry Potter has. Um,
Oh my god, that's what that is. That's plagiarism, sir. That's
there's a
plagiarism.
there's not a sorting hat. There's a sorting like unicorn.
I didn't realize that for some reason because it's not in all the pictures I'm looking at for some weird reason. I think it's some of his fan art, but I
Yeah.
didn't realize that's what that. Okay, come on, people.
There's also how the what's called there's the grand hall with the candles that are like hovering overhead. That shit's there too.
Okay,
There's also a fucking Quidditch clone game that they play. Like you
I'm
have to
hating
do
on.
the whole ball through the hoop and everything while on a broom.
Oh my god, I'm not gonna lie. I saw that and I thought I saw a GIF of it and I assumed that was like a fan created thing, like somebody was making fun of that it's Harry Potter. I didn't know they're actually playing fucking legally distinct Quidditch. I will
Okay,
give it
but
this.
okay. From my understanding, is the main character also just can't use magic and just uses his muscles to disguise everything as magic?
Yeah, if you are not a magic user, imagine that like either Voldemort or Grindelwald won. So now all humans are like kill all humans. Essentially, if you do not have what's it called? I think they're called lack mage or something like that. In
Muggles,
the show, or lack
like
magic or something like that.
black
But
muggles.
uh,
Yes,
that's more of a season 2, like, a season 2 term because they didn't really have that at first. But right now, that's essentially the story is that, Mash, he can't use magic. If he is found out, he will be executed like all the other, non-magical humans would be. And so
Oh
he's
my god.
discovered one day, but when the police notice that his muscles are so amazing that they deflect magic somehow, the cop is like, okay, tell you what, I can't beat your ass with my magic, but I can definitely beat your old man or arrest or kill him. So here's what I want you to do for me. I want you to go to this magical school and I want you to become like the valedictorian of this school, but I want all of the recognition and money and fame. I don't know how you would transfer that, but essentially all of the benefits from the title would be given to like this officer. So he says, if you do that, then I will not harass your family. And that's essentially why he's there. But I mean, it's so awesome. His personality, as my girlfriend put it, was a combination of mob and then maybe a little bit of psyche, but really he just has such a like deadpan expression to everything, and he's very himbo. He's like, because literally all he does is just work out, and that was just because his dad was like, you got to work out, you got to be strong, you can't use magic, so you got to be as strong as possible to survive out here. And he ends up making a lot of friends by showing them like, yeah, I'm not he doesn't say he's not magical because then he'll be in trouble, but it's just funny seeing how with his muscles he tries to fake all the magical stuff and everybody's just like very taken aback by it's cool.
It's funny because there's a little mini discussion in the chat about what makes something fantasy. Well, anime in this case, but anything. That's
Yeah.
actually a very interesting argument because I've talked about that before in past things, both in like conversations outside of this and on the podcast. But like I was mentioning earlier with the fantasy and sci-fi section at that bookstore that I worked at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subdivisions and everything, and fantasy is a good example. Like obviously, I kept talking about Record of Lodoss War. That's high fantasy, like
Mhm.
you know, magic and dragons and elves and dwarves and goblins and whatever. But honestly, like fantasy, I think in general is anything with a fantastical element. I guess is that the way you describe it, JD? I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that's a bit circuitous, isn't it? Fantasy
Yeah, it
is
is,
anything
isn't
that
it?
has a fantasy element in it.
I guess that is okay. Something magical, something.
Non-scientific,
Yeah,
and not
something you
like
can't
running off a
explain.
scientific supposition of something like some understanding of our world.
Yeah. So like if you ever create some sort of magic system, like a force of some sort, don't try to explain it by saying that some people can use that because they have a certain amount of little blood
The force runs
nanobots
through
or
every living being.
Not midichlorians or whatever. Sorry, that was a midichlorian rant.
You're
But
you're saying the midichlorians is the sci-fi, but the Force is just fantasy.
I will say this though, somebody uncovered like an old manuscript about like future movies that like or a future like design document that George Lucas was working on like in 1979, like when Star Wars was still just one movie and a very nebulous thing, and he was already talking about midichlorians back then. So he had
Okay.
that bullshit. He had that bullshit in his brain. But
Okay.
anyway,
Manuel, I think I have a high fantasy anime that fulfills most of the stuff you just said.
what?
It's actually airing right now. It's called Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
Free?
Oh yeah,
Free?
that one. I haven't seen that one. I've just seen I've just seen it cosplayed and I guess just images of it everywhere.
Mhm. So,
Hold on.
basic premise is
Oh.
after Frieren and her party have defeated the Demon King, time passed for her. She's an elf. She's already over 1,000 years old, and she'll live and see everyone she knew at that time die just by nature of her being. So
Didn't we
it's
talk
like
about
her
this
kind of
recently?
reconnecting with humanity and learning to appreciate like the short-livedness of humanity.
Yeah. So she's basically the Arwen of this universe.
Yes.
Oh, I have two things I want to follow up with that. Once again, I haven't seen it, but I'm following back into the comment section, especially when it was saying earlier about I'd say Goblin Slayer or the Irregular at Magical High, because I think that was really cool to bring up with the examples between like the high fantasy and what it's probably just like, or actually, yeah, between the fantasy or the science fiction. And Irregular comes off as kind of science fiction for a sec, but it is mainly just magic. I think it's because they have like the whole cloning shit in there too, but um.
Yeah. I've never
the-
seen a regular, but Goblin Slayer is definitely borders on the high, I mean,
Mm.
is high fantasy, I guess. But keep going, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah. But then he also says it's like alchemy and FMA explained by science, but basically magic. Like because yeah, it's like it's like chemistry, but it's like magical chemistry.
Okay.
So it's
I
like
I want to
mean
add in something right here.
I mean this. Well, I mean this in
yeah.
the nicest way. Alchemy's bullshit chemistry, but anyways, in the nicest
Yeah.
way. But go ahead, JD.
What is it? Is it Clarke's third law or something like that? Any significantly advanced science is indistinguishable from magic? Or I can't remember what the actual name of the law is, but there's a reverse of that too. It's like any sufficiently analyzed magic is indistinguishable from science. It's just the weirdness of sci-fi and fantasy. How, depending on how deep you want to go, either one could look like the other one very easily.
You mean like the Thor movie? How it was like technically, like it's Midgard and it's all magical, but then like freaking Chris Hemsworth is like, no, actually, it's much like your science. Let me point out how this actually works together. Not exactly magic, and it's like really weird because it technically is like this whole alternate science thing doesn't really work. I don't know if they were just thinking that
They
they
just
want to say
have-
this now.
They just have a much higher understanding of the fundamental forces of the universe and can command it because of that.
I want to point out that when I was a kid and I was reading Thor comics back in the day, Thor was a human, and I'm not sure at what point he became an actual god. Like, but that still blew my mind. Like, maybe there was a point, like maybe it was really early on. Maybe he was a god, then became a human, just when I was reading a random comic book or two. But Thor was a human that he got
Yes.
the he had like a real name, and he got
Blake.
the hammer.
Dr. Donald
Yes,
Blake, I'm
something-
sorry.
Yeah, something like that. And he became like Thor because of the hammer, basically. But he wasn't Thor. He wasn't the god. He wasn't son of Odin. Thor. He was just a dude.
Yeah, I want to say that
A
was
dude.
like the 80s or 90s where they retconned that, and he was actually Thor. Just he was disguised on Earth and couldn't remember for some reason.
Oh, they actually fully. I thought they just
Yes.
rebooted it entirely.
No.
I didn't know they retconned it. Is it like when Captain
Well,
America
they also
became Frieren?
like they also killed off Thor for like a good while back in like the 2000s.
Oh, shit, I
Okay.
didn't know that.
Okay, so back to
But anyway.
Frieren.
Oh, so
Yes.
Frieren.
Yes.
I want to watch that one.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was you who was mentioning it before, but like that was on my radar. I have a short list somewhere
Mhm.
where I put like animes. I want animes. Anime, is that pluralized? That's one of the big
Anime is its
questions
own
we have.
plural menu, like most Japanese words.
But yeah, it's on my list of ones I want to watch. Frieren.
Yeah, I want to watch it too. But I do want to bring up this other one now because of its premise. You know how
Sorry,
you're saying that
sorry, I
there's
have one more thing to say.
magic-
Of
Oh,
all the
well,
things
yes.
you listed, I think. Wait, have we seen? No, we've seen dragons. Never mind. We've seen elves, dwarves, dragons, magic. Yeah, we're good. I think we're hitting all your high notes.
I have a big gripe about any fantasy show that take. I mean, by the way, this is not just anime, but anime does it too. About any fantasy show that takes place in a later time of a magical world. You're ever like, what do you mean by that? And what I mean is, Lord of the Rings is a good example. It takes place in a time when, like, the elves are leaving. There's only a dragon or two left. Balrogs there's only one of them. There's only a couple wizards, who know magic. Or like Game of Thrones, where it's like, oh, there's no more dragons, and I hate that. That's my worst tropes. Is like, no, tell me the story of when this world was cool, not when it's basically like us with like a dragon off in that mountain over there. No, I want to know when shit was really happening. But I brought that up.
You know what?
Frieren sounds like it's gonna be like that.
You know what else? Like,
what isn't? But anyways, go ahead.
no, I'm not gonna say my example exactly just yet. I'll say it after this next one. But like what you're bringing up to me was, do you remember that movie Blight with Will Smith? So like, okay, so later in the movie when they I think they survive the I'm trying to remember the name, the orc. So there's the blue orc, and he gets resurrected. I think he was supposed to be killed off by like the Florida orcs.
The real thing.
Right?
Yes, it's the real thing. It sounds so stupid out of context. But keep going.
Give me a quick sec right now.
Oh, what did he do? Is he gonna come back as a blue orc?
I have no idea.
But no, that's the very infamous movie that Will Smith has a line that I fucking love. He shoots a fairy. Oh, you know the line I'm gonna say?
He beats up the fairy and says fairy lives don't matter.
Fairy lives don't matter. Yes. It's funny because every so often, I think his earphones were dying. That's what happened.
Okay.
Because now he's in different earphones.
Sorry about that. Just had to address something really quick. But yeah, no, it's from that movie. Wait, you're saying it was called Bright?
It's called Bright.
It was called Blight.
No, it's called Bright.
Called Bright. Okay.
Oh.
So, what's it called? So, after one of the orcs is like not killed, I guess, by Florida orcs, the orc is telling Will Smith of like this lore. He's telling him lore about the world, and I kid you not, the lore he was talking about sounded way cooler than the movie.
No, that's what I mean. That's literally what I mean. I can't stand when a fantasy story, and it could be a good one, it could be a good story on its own, but it's always at a time when it was better. But then again, maybe that's what they're getting at, because I think as a species, we always have, it was better before, it was better in my day. So maybe but no, that can't be the truth, because like there are prequels to everything we've said, and like it was better before. It was cooler when there was more than 3 dragons in Game of Thrones. It was better when there was more than like 1 dragon in Lord of the Rings.
I don't know. I think A Song of Ice and Fire makes a decent argument against the idealized past like that, and how it's always a lot messier, a lot more morally gray, a lot more violent than we like to remember.
I guess that is. Go ahead.
I think if you really want to follow Manuel's logic, technically the intro of 7 Deadly Sins more than like makes up for it, because it literally is saying before the times of demons being driven out, and humanity being at a better spot, on a better standpoint, it literally puts you into a story where all the crazy shit is happening, as the intro literally says. Yeah, but before normal civilization, let me tell you the time where all this bonkers ass stuff was going on.
It sounds fun though. I want the bonkers ass shit.
Yeah, and that's what's going on in this show.
By the way, I want to point out that JD said that Bright had an anime adaptation, and I thought he was doing a bit, so I googled it, and it does, and that pisses me off.
What? No way.
Yes,
it's called Samurai Soul.
I think it's basically the same plot, but now it's in like Edo period Japan.
Yeah, exactly. It has the elf and everything. It's like, what the fuck? Who like?
Oh my gosh!
And Miyavi's in it. Miyavi plays he's a voice actor, but Miyavi's in it. What the fuck? What is this movie? How did it?
What?
This was like when Netflix was just greenlighting anything. Like you can say,
it came out in the year 2021.
Yeah. Like, remember, Bright did numbers when it first came out, so they were like trying to make a sequel. I don't know if that's ever going to get off the ground, but they got that at least.
I remember Bright had all this like sort of weird shit because it was one of the first it was one of the first movies that they were trying to push for like winning awards or whatever. Well, it wasn't like the first, but it was amongst that like little trend. Because I think that at that point, no awards were really given to streaming movies. They had to be in a theater. That might still be the case. I think because every so often they'll release a streaming movie into like one or two theaters just to make it so that it could get an award potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which is such a boomer logic that that's the way we give awards. Is it has to play in a theater.
In Los Angeles or
But-
New York.
Is that really? I didn't know that was that.
I believe
specific,
part
but-
of the things, the qualification for the Academy Awards is that it has to stream, or sorry, it has to be shown in one theater in either New York or LA for a week.
That's such a boomer thing.
Yeah.
That-
Obviously,
that's
it
why we-
changed in 2020. I don't know how much they've laxed the rules since then.
Of course, it would change. It takes a pandemic to get the boomers to be like, yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
I've ranted about this
It took
before.
Okay,
to
okay,
kill
but
off
Manuel,
some
it's
of
not
the
fantasy
boomers so
anime.
we can make progress.
I don't care. I'm going to say this is the only sentence anyway. I've ranted about this before. I'm just going to say it again. The one thing that the pandemic didn't take from us that I think it should have was movie theaters. Anyway,
Okay. So we're talking more SDS.
SDS.
Okay, so like, oh, the Seven Deadly Sins. But like
Oh.
before we get to Seven Deadly Sins, I think there's an anime that had it's not an anime yet. I don't know if it'll ever be made an anime, but this comes from one of the works of Rumiko Takahashi, where I think this was before Inuyasha, she had a manga series called Mermaid Wars.
I thought I'm like, there's no reason to talk about that one. And it was, yes.
You've heard, so you have read it? Like you've read
I've
it?
read it. Yeah. It's one of
Okay,
the
so
few
the cool
mangas
thing
I've
about
never
this one
read,
is that
like, of hers.
it starts off in feudal Japan with like a guy who is trying to figure out something weird that's going on about missing women, and then he essentially gets he gets kidnapped and killed, I believe, by the what's it called, the mermaids, which they like, it's not what you're thinking. They're like land walking hell spawn monsters that can also turn into sea creatures, and I guess they're gonna like do a human sacrifice also to a girl. However, both the girl and the guy who died are exposed to their blood or like the scales of the mermaids, which gives them immortality. I don't know how this skipped out on the actual mermaids necessarily. Maybe it's because they're like human into it, but they become immortal. And the mermaids, I guess, are kind of like vampires. Like if they're out of the water and they're hit by sunlight or some shit like that, they die and stuff. And so it almost felt like, okay, that feels like it could be like a good one-off, like maybe an OVA could be made out of it. But it continues on because they're immortal. So what happens is in the next chapter, it's like way in the future. And it's way in the future. They like go over like small crimes, not crimes, but like small mysteries that occur, and it all relates back to mermaid scales. Like there's something supernatural going on. It must be related to like if mermaid scales are involved or something, like someone having abnormal powers or some shit like that. And it always goes back and forth. Like it'll be in the future at one point, and then it'll go to the past at one point, and it's just very much experiencing like both ends of it. And like it was interesting. Some of the stories in there are pretty cool. It was unique to see like the different things that occur. There would still be stakes involved if there was like, let's say, someone who's dangerous. Not to like our main two protagonists, because they're straight up like immune to everything. But it would be about like other people. So it was just interesting when you bring up the situation with the whole what was that anime called for Frieren, or what was it?
Yeah.
Frieren. Thank you for correcting me. And how she's, super old and like just kind of continues on being, it's very interesting too. Plus because they're immortal and they looked like relatively young when they got affected by the mermaid stuff, they're forever young also.
Forever young.
Okay.
Anyways, no, what's
weird
funny
thing.
is that it did get an Adam. Oh, you're gonna say that too?
What? No, you go first.
I looked it up. It did have an anime adaptation at some point. But the reason I read the manga was because I was a big fan of Rumiko Takahashi back in the day. But Inuyasha was still running at the time. And like, I have this thing about reading ongoing series. It has to be done. It has to have an ending. So I read Mermaid Saga. I think it's called Mermaid Saga when it was released as a manga. I read that one just because it was only like 2 or 3 volumes or some shit.
Mhm.
What you say, Judy?
Oh yeah, the thing about like mermaid flesh, I think that's part of Japanese folklore. I don't know if
It
inspectors
is.
Okay, it is referencing that too, because it has characters who have eaten mermaid flesh too and are immortal, because it's a loophole, because there's some other creature that if you eat it, you can see the future, but you have to die. So if you combine that with the immortality from eating mermaid flesh, you just have to keep killing yourself and you'll get to see the future.
I think that's part of the plot of that one movie I show at the Edogudo panels, The Mermaid in a Manhole, where that dude's cutting up that mermaid. It's a very gore movie. Do not watch it. But if you do watch it, it is like I mean, that movie barely has a plot. It's just it's just violence on screen. But that is a plot point of it's like 2-sentence plot. Anyway.
Okay. So yes, next show.
Well, it's funny because like you have Berserk there, and I used to love Berserk when I was younger. Like I'm an OG. I liked Berserk before it was cool. I'm actually being dead serious.
No one liked Berserk before it was cool.
I did.
Berserk just was given.
I played the Dreamcast game in 1999 or 2000, like when it was new. And I was so obsessed with it. I was like, what? And by the way, the manga was already being released back then. And I was like, what the hell? And I remember like the manga was so violent. So like it had like, nudity, it had violence. I was blew my mind. And there's only a few. And I remember Berserk was one of those weird mangas. Like I think Rama Half's another good example of back in the day when they were releasing older versions, but I guess because manga was kind of taking off at the time and anime as well, they were reprinting the old ones, so you could buy volumes 1, 2, or 3, or 16, 17, 18. But you couldn't really find the ones in the middle because they were out of print. I mean, the numbers are off, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like having to follow it like in a weird order like that. So I remember I would read ones I was a kid, so I would like be in the bookstore just like, being a nuisance, and I would just like read them in the bookstore and like Barnes and Noble. But I love Berserk. I remember when I watched the anime, I was like, oh shit, this is really great. And then I come to find out that no one likes that anime.
Wait, no, everyone likes the 1999 anime.
Really?
Yes, no one likes the 2016 one.
I thought no one likes it because it only tells the Band of the Hawk story.
Oh, the Golden Age arc.
There you go. And everyone hates that it ends with the
the eclipse.
Femto and whatever the fuck,
Stuff we won't talk about here, just for A, spoilers, and B, content reasons.
It gets really crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I remember like I saw all this back then, and then when Berserk became big, I remember it's funny because this is still before the 2016 or whatever movies or whatever the fuck they were, if there were shows or movies.
It was 3 movies covering the Golden Age arc, and then it was an anime TV series going past that.
And I remember when I was watching, when people were talking about Berserk, I thought something new had happened. And once again, I want to remind you, this is before those movies. And like, this is like the start of A to J time, 2013, 2014. And no, everyone was just like, I still don't know what kicked off that resurgence. Maybe somebody, a bigger Berserk fan out there can tell me. But I was really like, and everyone I knew hated the anime, but maybe I just knew stupid people, Warren. And I think I'm the only person I know personally who's ever played the Dreamcast game. But yeah. And fun fact, if you ever play that Dreamcast game, it takes place way after the Golden Age arc. Like, he's traveling around with that fairy dude and like a mute Casca and like, he's already all fucked up.
Oh,
so
I think the thing is that we are finally getting new chapters, and I think they're just about to get off the boat.
Oh, okay. Rest in peace, by the way. Our dude, I forgot his name.
Kentaro Miura.
Then tragedy struck.
Yeah. Fun fact: if you like Berserk, I mentioned this before. There's a cool band called Beast in Black. Almost every song they do is about Berserk in some way. And the guitarist from that band, he used to be in a band called Battle Beast. Yeah, I know original names. He was in a band called Battle Beast. And Battle Beast now is a totally different band, but back when he was in it, all their songs were mostly about Berserk also. And I mean, like literally, they have a song called fucking Band of the Hawk and like shit like that, and like Zod the Destroyer and so on. Anyway, I like Berserk, but I like Slayers more. That's the one. That's my go-to anime one. So yes, JD, I do like funny ones too.
I'm just saying you instantly disqualify just about anything with any kind of comedy in it.
Well, I just don't like that you don't have all the options. Fucking, how pissed I was, especially when I was young, wanting to watch a fantasy anime. And it's funny because somewhere in the chat, Weston mentioned it earlier. But you know where you can find true high fantasy anime? that's not like a joke or whatever,
Mm.
and that pisses me off. Or even just ecchi anime would have a straight, like as straight as in like no mixed genre, a straight like well, I guess you consider a genre, but it would have a straight fantasy world. Like it either has to be comedy or it has to be some bullshit like Aura Battle or Dunbine or Garzy's Wing or Esclafone, where there's also giant robots for some reason, or it's some bullshit like I guess Ray Earth is also robots, but like
Yeah.
Ray Earth where it's pseudo isekai.
It is isekai manual.
I guess it is isekai in general, but yeah, it has to be like that.
So you're just like, I want all my high fantasy stuff, and it's just all the like no nonsense demonic shit that's like occurring
Yeah,
as people are just
for some
getting it
reason,
on.
exactly. For some reason, you could do straight fantasy. It's either your options were or Record or Lotus War or get the fuck out.
You forgot, not exactly per se, but like it's called Devilman.
Oh, we talked about that earlier too, like
We were
Devilman.
talking about this before. And like, it was like, he was asking, is that a fantasy series? Like, yeah. I mean, you got angels, demons. Those are fantastical elements.
I've ranted about this before. In my opinion, there has not been a single good Devilman adaptation, and I don't mean to say that they're bad, but there hasn't been a true faithful one to the source
I'm gonna be
material.
on. I can agree, but like Crybaby. The only problem I have with
The animation.
Crybaby is
You
what?
better say the animation, because the animation was
No,
shit.
that's what I was gonna say. The animation, there are times where it's just hard to like
God
follow
awful.
suit with it.
What the hell's
Like
that one?
I
The
don't.
Toblerone show? It looks like the Toblerone show.
Okay,
It
Manuel,
does.
no,
No,
you are doing a
no.
disservice to Devilman Crybaby by comparing it to Neo Yokio.
There you go. Anyways,
Okay,
keep going.
yeah, no, I don't want to compare it to Neo Yokio. I don't want to compare it to Neo Yokio. I think it's more like, do you know that anime that's called like The Night is Young Girl? So
Oh,
like
yeah.
Walk On or
Nice
something
young
like that?
walk-on girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
Same
because
studio. Or like same
is it
okay, that
team.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They do like the
Okay, so
deformed like animation
uh,
stuff where things get zany.
yeah,
I
and
don't know if it's just
I think you go first or wherever
okay. I
I'm
don't know.
pointing.
Sorry, I'm just real fast. I don't know if it's just me because I'm picking favorites here, but the Gold Girl one I think looks a lot better than Devilman Crybaby. But keep going.
I think it works better for that one just because of how, like, because it feels obtuse, and I think it works really well with it. Now, my problem with Devilman and Crybaby is that because there's like really jank animation moments that you're following that just make it seem like, what is this? What am I watching? And it happens so early, it can easily turn someone off to think that this is not going to be what it's going to be. Um, and it doesn't really work with it until like you watch later into the show. And mind you, there are some frames that don't look good even later, but the fluidity of it does work. I just don't like when they reuse some of the stills, even in the later episodes. I'm just like, why are they replaying stills? Like, come on, yo. Like you can do better than this. And I feel like it's really close to doing that. But otherwise, it's crazy. It is hands down striking, dark. The fact that they just modernized it so you don't have your 70s punk kids, you have like the whatever the like the rapping kid style or stuff that is.
The rapping kid style. But no, I get what you mean. I don't know. I just never thought there was a good Devilman adaptation.
What
Speaking of,
about
huh?
Devilman versus Cyborg 009?
I don't think I've ever seen that. Is that an anime?
It should be on Netflix still. Let me look it up
Is it
really
new?
quick. But
New?
No,
it came out before what's it called? Devilman Crybaby. It has Bryce Papenbrook as what's his name?
Why were they ever
Akira.
fighting? Why were they fighting each other?
Oh no, it's actually a really cool reason. Like I actually I watched it. If you know both shows, it actually is a pretty good like crossover.
Well, there isn't Cyborg 009. Isn't that also a retro show? Like, is in like from the
Yes,
golden age? Or
it's
whatever?
another retro
Yes.
going guy.
Okay, so I mean, I remember Devilman has had several crossovers back in the day, or not several, but he's had at least one. I can't remember the name of, like way back in the day. Like I think he fought one of the robots from the other shows, but still, that seems so random. In like 20 whatever. What year did this come out? 2016. What the? Okay, that
Yeah.
was the height. That was the height of me going everywhere for A to J. So I guess it just this fell right under my radar. I swear to God, this is the first time I've ever heard of this. What the hell?
Okay, so like no, it's the animation style, and it's taking more the 70s look. So it has the 70s look for Devilman with Akira.
Mhm.
Akira, and this one, funny enough, it's crazy because like at the same time with other roles of people that were getting a lot of stuff together, Akira is voiced by Bryce Papenbrook, and his love interest is voiced by Christina V, where they were getting paired up in like a lot of stuff back in the day. And what's funny is that when they did Crybaby, they didn't keep Bryce Papenbrook, but they did keep Christina V as the love interest girl, so like she stuck around for it. What's also interesting is by comparison to which version of Rio you like. I mean, it's also kind of different from the OVA, but Rio in versus Cyborg 009, Rio is like old. Like he's supposed to be the same age as Akira, but instead he looks like his like very depressed smoker uncle.
I gotta watch that one. I'm surprised I never heard of it. I will admit, and this is slightly, well, it's still anime, but slightly off topic, that I it bothers me when some shows like Devilman's a good example, where like instead of modernizing it, they just keep making it look like the 70s version. Uh, it's like it's fine. You can give them modern character designs. We don't need Akira's like crazy ass sideburns and whatever. Like we'll live, guys.
So, like it's like let's say we took those designs that are in Crybaby and we use the animation style that's in the versus
Yeah,
Cyborg
I was gonna say,
009 movie.
I
You
will
know,
admit that
like
Crybaby
if you
did have
had that, not
the
the whatever the like
the
jank
running
ass
animation.
like
The Scooby Doo running. It's not Scooby Doo, but I can't describe it any other way. The you know
No,
what I'm talking about.
you know that scene alone is like, what the fuck is this? Like, I almost didn't want to watch it when like I
I
was
did
watching
it.
it. My
I
sister,
legit stopped when I saw that.
yeah, my sister was like, no, you should watch it. It gets pretty good. But she hadn't look when she told me that she had not finished watching it either. So she was like, it's pretty good. It's out there. But yeah, like I finished it before she did. So I asked like, have you finished it yet? And it's like, no, I haven't finished it yet. And I was like, oh. And she was like,
And
what happens? It's like, I just said, be prepared.
speaking of not being, yeah, speaking of not being faithful to the source material, for those who don't know, and this is mild spoiler alert, but this is literally every Devilman. After the apocalypse happens, the series has a very definite ending, as in like Devilman and Rio fight and they kill each other basically. And I think only the movie has ever showed that. Like, even though the story itself is not a very long story, but for some reason the anime always stops short when it's like they don't want to show the apocalypse arc or whatever, if that's even the term for it. But yeah. I love Slayers. I actually love Louis the Rune Soldier. That's neither of those are on the list. You need to watch those, JD. Um, Louis the Rune Soldier actually, in my opinion, has the right mix of comedy and like high fantasy. And it also has a magician, like wizard, or what the fuck he's supposed to be. I forgot what term they use there. Who like is also a muscle bound guy who mostly does a lot of punching. We were talking about that one.
Mashle.
And he's also in school. This is not at all like fucking. He's also in a school. But anyways, but yeah, those are my favorites. Heroic Legend of Arslan. I love the story. The dub is terrible. And I haven't heard the new one, but the old dub is terrible, and the animation is pretty bad too. As in, like, there's some scenes where it's like kind of a still and people are talking, like they couldn't afford to finish it. I hate shit like that. But yeah, and those are, I think, the end of the actual quote unquote what Manuel considers all actual fantasy on this list that I've seen.
I got one
And
more for
nothing
you
else
though.
Yeah, what's one more?
Akame got killed.
Oh, would you consider that
It's on
fan? I mean,
isekai.
Okay, have I been saying fanime half the time? I'm trying to say fantasy.
No, I think you only said it once or twice.
Okay, well, I realized I said it there. But would you consider that fantasy, JD?
I haven't seen
Akame
it.
got killed?
You haven't seen Akame got killed?
If it's not on the list, I probably haven't seen it.
I
Oh my
have seen
gosh.
it, but that was a weird sound I made, by the way. It's not like I was really, like, moaning. But no, I mean, like, how I don't know if I consider that fantasy. That's my hot take.
What do you mean? It's got magic. It's not substituted for like some sciencey shit either. Everyone has like special abilities as well.
I don't know. I want to point out that, like, I know we loosely define that if it has magic, but JD has Fruits Basket on his list, and that pisses me off. And it's not as bad as that, but a comic I kill, I just feel it's a little too.
Wikipedia has Akame got killed listed as dark fantasy. So go ahead.
Am I just stupid? Am I a boomer who's too much of a gatekeeping fantasy fan? Is that what you're trying to tell me, JD?
I'm not saying
Or-
it's the highest fantasy for Fruits Basket. I'm just saying it has that fantastic element in it. It directly deals with the actions of a god and how it has affected a family that causes them to transform into animals.
We're almost upon Chinese New Year, so we're almost the year of Rio.
Dragon.
Is that his name?
No, it's Hattori.
Hattori. Okay, I was completely wrong. I don't know.
Joe
what
doesn't have one
Ryoma-
because he's the cat.
No, Ryoma is a character, but that's another character from another anime that I'm thinking of in my head that only I know. Anyway. Fun fact, if you've never seen Fruits Basket, he's actually a dragon horse. He's a seahorse.
Yeah.
Yes, because seahorse in Japanese is like bastard child of the dragon.
Yeah, it's just, it's funny because like I read the manga and the manga didn't make a note to that, and like fucking like 10th grade manual was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was really upset. I just wanted to see
dragon.
Okay, so Akame got killed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna rant about dragons again and how we need more dragons in fantasy. Anything. Is there an anime about dragons? Keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say Akame got killed was just a really like badass show. I think a lot of people equate it to like Game of Thrones in anime form, especially because it's like the bodies start hitting the floor like crazy near the end. I was actually surprised by one of the deaths. Also, I did not expect some of the people that died. I was like, oh okay. Oh, I didn't see that coming. I was even telling myself in my head like, they're still okay. It's a long guess, and then later it's like, no, it's gone. They're gone, Homer.
The pig. That's a sign of a good fantasy anime. I guess I need to watch Akame got Kill again. But yeah, like one of this list, like he has Persona's on here. I've never seen the Persona anime, but I would consider that
Persona
fantasy.
4 Persona 4 is really good. Persona Trinity, whatever, is It's like technically one of the like I think it follows the answer technically, but it also doesn't acknowledge Persona 4 ever being a thing. So it's I don't know. I'm not really a fan. It's more Persona content, but I'm not a fan. And then the Persona 5 anime is just an inferior version of the Persona 5 game. Unless you watch the dub,
I think
the
most
dub
of them
is actually
would be
pretty
considered
good.
that. But the
No,
worst
Persona 4 anime is actually pretty dope. Persona 4
okay.
anime is really good.
I've seen the 5
Persona
anime.
3,
Yeah.
The Persona 3 movies, I forgot. Persona 3 movies are all right, but the music is pretty damn slapping. Like the music justifies the existence of the Persona 3 movies.
Well, the Persona music in general is usually really good. I'm not sure if it's one person behind it, but I'm a huge fan of all the Persona music. Not 5s as much, but then again, that's a little unfair because I haven't played enough 5 to know if I like all the music. But from what I've heard of it, it all sounds very generic comparatively.
I mean, I think it's
don't
all
be
on
like
streaming
that.
services right now, Manuel.
Oh, well, I'm stupid. Persona invented jazz. If you
Jazz.
think about it, yes, they did.
Yeah, because a bunch of Persona fans didn't know what the fuck jazz was before that. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me started on what anime fans have like. You know how upset I am that Manuel, a fan of Savage Garden, since their songs were new. You know how pissed I was when I was playing that. I didn't even know the name of the song off the top of my
I
head.
Want You.
And I was Yes, I was playing that at Fanime a couple years back. I think it was the year back from the pandemic. It just came on, and someone in the room, non-ironically, was like, "Oh man, fucking love JoJo."
So
I'm like,
I didn't know
Bro,
Manuel at the
the
time,
ED
but I
for
was there.
JoJo Part 4.
it pissed me off so much. I was like, "What do you mean?" And I didn't know. I had no idea that was a joke. I thought poor naive Manuel. I thought the Roundabout was the only song they ruined. By the way, I loved Yes and
They
Roundabout
ruined
specifically.
Roundabout? Wait, what? Are
Me,
you wait, no, no,
yes.
no, no. You mean
I
the fans ruined it, not
yes.
that they ruined Roundabout.
Well, the fans ruined it
I mean,
because
I can't
now
hear that now without seeing the to be continued arrow spinning in.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't either. Especially that one because
Oh,
that has the to be continued bullshit. Like I've done that meme. It's all like, yeah,
what about
with the
Walk Like an Egyptian?
funny you bring that up. So when I used to use when I don't like using music streaming services, but there was like a year where I had like a free year of Amazon Music. So I was using that, and I'm like, um, I'm not gonna say Alexa's name because she'll turn on and start doing some stupid shit.
You already
But I'll
said it,
say like
Manuel.
I know it's already lit up behind me. Like Miss A, play anime music, and like I guess back then they didn't really have any anime music, so the first song they played was "Walk Like an Egyptian," and I was like, "The fuck? I think it's broken."
No, it's
And then,
the first ending of Stardust Crusaders, 2012
but
or
yeah. Anyways,
2014.
anime
or
has ruined
my
a.
favorite.
Well, just JoJo has ruined the music, I guess.
What was it called? What's that one about the? What's it called? Oh, here we go. Mannequin's Bizarre Adventure. That's why we remember the Walk Like an Egyptian, right?
I'm
Okay,
so mad somehow, like how over there, like everyone just knows I want you because of that fucking. And whenever I hear somebody like that song, and I know this is very gatekeeping, I know it is, but it's kind of like the Stranger Things Master of Puppets thing. Whenever I hear someone who likes like Savage Garden in general, I'm like, do you actually like them, or do you like
You
JoJo?
mean like
You're not a real
what
Savage Garden.
happened? You mean like also what happened when they had what's it called? Because I had a friend who especially when you have the context of what a song's about, I had a friend who have okay, have a friend who's very much into K-pop and of the sort. But after there was a very untimely passing of somebody from a K-pop group back in like I want to say it was like post 2017 or something like that. Um, they listened a lot to what's it called? Because they actually did listen to the artist before Volume 4 of Stranger Things when it's running up that hill, since the entirety
Oh,
of that song is just
yeah.
like it's a very remorseful song, essentially. You get me? Um, so come to after Volume 4, and the highest rated episode is essentially the one with what's it called? Freddy Krueger in it, and it's like it's got the song playing and everything at the very end. And they were like, "Yeah, that was like a very like that song is like very important to me." And then Netflix ruined it, so it's played everywhere.
You know what other song? Sorry, we're gonna wrap this up. Jay. You know what other song Netflix and Stranger Things ruined for me? The Never Ending
What?
Story.
My
Speaking of
God,
songs,
what? Oh no,
because there's
not
that
Netflix. You
scene
see
with
Netflix. You mean to
Stranger
say
Things. Stranger
uh,
Things.
Stranger Things season 3,
Yes, it ruined it because that part
volume
where they
3.
sing the song together, and I'm like,
okay.
the song's ruined to me now. And I
So
know that the people who make the songs, they could care less, or they couldn't care less. Like I know Lamal actually, like he does the one who does Never Ending Story. He's like, I love that people hear my music, and Metallica's like, we welcome all fans, but fuck you, I don't. You better not have heard that song from Stranger Things or JoJo's, or I'll fucking kick your ass.
okay, can we at least talk JoJo? That somehow that didn't make it on my list, but you gotta admit,
Hey, to
it
be
starts with
JoJo
people
fair,
using
is
to
magic
be
breathing to
fair,
beat up vampires.
you
It
don't
fits.
you don't necessarily hear a Metallica song. You just know that there are characters named after Metallica and songs or albums.
Oh, has
So
anyone ever
like,
seen? No, speaking of fantasy and JoJo-ish and named after shit, have you guys ever seen Bastard?
No,
Bastard.
I've
That
heard of
that
it, haven't
also
seen it.
it like I can't remember all their names. There's somebody named Dio there too. There's somebody named like shit, I can't remember anymore. But anyways,
Okay,
everyone
before you
has like
continue,
metal names,
but
and I
before you
think the
continue, I
kingdom is
see what
called
you're
Metalliconia. Anyways, keep going.
I see what you're trying to do, but then we're gonna talk about Guilty Gear right after, and Guilty Gear does the same shit, man. Like, well, maybe it goes a little bit further because some of the character themes actually do have like melody strings that are similar to some of the songs too. But like, anyway, I will agree though. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, yes, that's probably peak fantasy. It starts off with vampires and Aztec bodybuilder like men for some reason, but like, um, no, there's also ghosts. There's also aliens in the show. There's
Funny, I said this many a time about JoJo's. JoJo is very similar to Berserk to me. Actually, it's the exact same thing, because I was a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure back in the day because there was also a Dreamcast game, and I think there was a game before
I was
that I
about to say
played.
you're just a fighting game fan and you played
Exactly.
Heritage of the Future or just JoJo's Bizarre Adventure before it was given the updates.
And
But
and
like,
there was another game that came out. I can't remember if it was a Game Boy game or something. And I remember I remember some of there was media you could absorb back then, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I like it. And then 10 years later, suddenly everyone just will not stop talking
Because the
about it.
new anime came out, Manuel. I'm sorry, people get into things at different times. Not everyone as old as you are and was able to get into Hoop and Stick right when it came out.
Yeah, just like Berserk. It's funny because Berserk and JoJo kind of blew up similar-ish times. Uh, because once again, like I remember hearing about Berserk, like JD said when the new volumes were coming out, whatever the fuck. But yeah, all you guys are late. All you guys just gonna be an asshole now. Stop ruining songs for me. If JoJo like takes the Deep Purple song, I'm gonna be very upset.
I'm pretty sure they already had something called Deep Purple. I think it was a stand.
oh,
By
it
the
was Purple Rain
Oh yeah.
or Purple Haze. Purple Haze was the name of the stand.
hey,
But it
he's
was
all in my brain. Anyways, sorry, that's a Jimi Hendrix song. Does anyone listen to Jimi Hendrix? I feel like Jimi Hendrix is that kind of artist. That's a real boomer artist.
okay. I actually do have some rock trivia. I'm sorry to like hijack it for a sec. What band discovered Jimi Hendrix?
Is that a trick question? I don't know. The Doors?
No,
No, it's the band.
The Who.
Are you serious?
So who discovered Jimi Hendrix, and the time where he blew up was at I forget, it was Woodstock because they
Yeah.
actually had him join in for that one, and that's where everybody became
Fun,
aware of Jimi Hendrix. But he was originally discovered by the Who.
fun fact,
The
I
Who?
mentioned this before. That's why I thought he was doing a bit. The fun fact about Jimi Hendrix, I mentioned this before. One of my favorite bands is Hawkwind, who do a ton of shit based on fantasy. Just to tie it back in there, I swear JoJo's gonna steal a Hawkwind song one day. But and also Lemmy was in that band at one point. Uh, one of their original frontman was a guy named Nick Turner who passed away recently. Really great guy, but
Right.
he used to paint his face silver, and there was a famous quote where where Jimi Hendrix was playing the Isle of Wight festival, which is a paid festival, but Hawkwind set up outside of it and was playing for free, and Jimi Hendrix like dedicated the song to like the cat with the silver face, and it was to the Hawkwind guy. Fun fact about that guy, Nick Turner, that dude was like fucking 80 years old. And he would still come to the US, tour around the country, and like sleep on people's couches and like perform like free concerts at bars and shit like that because he liked their music. And that's fucking wild. And then I'm like, I hope I die like that someday, like fucking old as fuck, still doing shit like that, crashing on people's couches.
Passing away on someone's couch and
That's a
forever
ter-
either increasing or decreasing their property value from it. I don't know.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, like I hope whoever house that is figures out a way to make money off of it. That's my gift to you, homie.
His
Also, you
house
can,
had a His house had a weeb in it. He knew many a knowledge of Japan. He knew many a knowledge of things before they blew up. Some say that he was ahead of his time. Other people say he was that guy with the really big gamer collection. But you have been blessed for being able to experience him here. Do not worry. He is not of a lecturous spirit or anything to my knowledge. But if you do see him, you will probably be in for a long, long, long discussion about what actual fantasy is.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to end it real fast. I want to point out that I've been having some weird dreams lately, and this last night I had this dream where like I don't know what the fuck the main plot of it was. Typical dream bullshit, whatever. But the side plot to the dream was that a friend of mine, Yuji, you guys know Yuji, but a friend of mine named Yuji. She was a ghost for some reason. I guess she had died at some point. I don't know. She died pre-dream. She was a ghost that I would text to bring me a hot dog. And through the course of the dream, whatever the fuck not dream nonsense we were doing, I would text her and she'd come up and give me a hot dog like as a ghost. And that was the side plot to my dream. Also, I had a really bad, like almost nightmare where and I told this to Weston when it happened, when I woke up, that this was like on Saturday, that we had all woken up in the hotel room and it was like past noon and we were past checkout and we just kept yelling and fighting with each other until it was past 4 and they charged us for a whole nother night.
Damn.
That's a nightmare. That's like my worst fear. And then I woke up like, God damn it, I have to pay all that money. And I'm like, wait, it was a dream. But
Like, damn, that's hot.
let's wrap it up there.
Okay.
Closing word, JD.
Yeah, there's a lot more fantasy anime than we talked about here, and that Manuel's probably willing to admit. Actually, I'm really liking Delicious in Dungeon from this season. About a crew trying to crawl through the dungeon while feasting on the things that live there, so that they don't have to pay for actual food.
That sounds fun.
There's a game that came out. I think it's called like Meat Dungeon. I forgot what the fuck it's called. It's a game that came out for NAS America recently. Monster Menu. It's called Monster Menu, and it's basically that plot. You form a party and you have to go through a dungeon. It's a roguelite, but you just eat the monsters. It's like Monster Hunter on crack. Anyway, I'm watching Konosuba, which is like the first time I feel like almost like a real weeb, because like I feel like I always watch shit that's not really popular, but I'm watching Konosuba and it's getting a new season soon, and hopefully I finish it in time and then can watch that. I think you can watch it for money on Crunchyroll.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
Okay, closing words.
Josh?
I forgot your name.
I know I said a fair share of what I said. I really enjoyed the stream. It was really cool to talk about some of these and then to also take note of some future fantasy animes to watch also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, we kept referring to a list. I'm going to post that list on YouTube in the comment section as soon as this video goes up.
Yeah, and also speaking of that, we didn't even talk about the topic I actually wanted to talk about, which is not wanted to, but like I wanted to bring it up at some point. How I hate that almost every fantasy anime today is isekai. Like that's the new trope. You can't just make a fantasy anime. Konosuba.
Yes, you watch Konosuba.
It does not need to be a isekai. There's nothing, and I know, yeah, you bring Aqua. No, we could have just brought Aqua some other way.
Okay, Manuel, it's going to come up a couple other times. Just going to let you know that.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
But as far as I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna ask JD live if he wants to spoil it. In the game, they refer to other people being reincarnated.
Yes, that is specifically what's going to come up.
Okay, I guess because in the game, by the way, I just played a game and I reviewed it for A to J, which is what got me interested in the anime. But yeah, the game mentions other isekai people, which is I'm like, that's interesting. But yeah. Anyways, peace out. Wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Shout out to Ed, our current patron. Shout out to anyone who's watching. And let us know your favorite fantasy anime. Good night.
Night, everybody.
Peace.